Welcome to Bio Bits and Bytes. Get ready to dive deep because today we're unpacking a scientific story that's been brewing for, well, over half a century.
That's right.
And it's finally reached a really exciting conclusion. We're talking about vitamin B1, also known as thiamine,
Thiamine, yes.
and the recent confirmation of a 67-year-old idea about how this vital nutrient actually works its magic, right down at the molecular level.
It's fantastic to be here and explore this. It's a fascinating piece of scientific history really coming to light.
Definitely. We've gathered a great set of sources to help us get the full picture here. We've got a lively discussion happening over on Reddit about these findings, the official scientific abstract detailing the research itself, some insightful articles from the University of California, Riverside, UCR, and bioengineer.org.
Good sources.
Yeah, and a list of publications from the Lavala lab at UCR, plus some essential background info on thiamine deficiency and vitamin B1 from trusted places like PubMed Central and StatPearls.
Right, good context there.
So our mission today, for you tuning in, is to not just understand this scientific advancement, but to really grasp why it's significant, what it tells us about the crucial role vitamin B1 plays in our health.
Absolutely.
We're going to try and break down some potentially complex chemistry and biology into, digestible insights, aiming for those aha moments that stick with you.
Sounds good.
And to guide us through this, we have our expert with us today. So to kick things off, could you give us a clear definition? What is vitamin B1 or thiamine, and what are its sort of fundamental functions in the body?
Certainly. Vitamin B1, thiamine, it's an essential vitamin, which means our bodies, well, they can't make it themselves. We have to get it from our diet.
Okay, essential. Got it.
And as the StatPearls article points out, it's one of the 8 B complex vitamins. It's water-soluble.
Meaning it dissolves in water.
Exactly. And because of that, it isn't stored in the body for long periods, so we need a regular intake. You find it naturally in foods like brown rice, whole grains, pork, poultry, soybeans, nuts, peas.
Lots of places.
And also in fortified grains. Plus, it's readily available as a supplement.
Okay.
Now, to actually do its work in the body, thiamine needs to be converted into its active form. That's mostly thiamine diphosphate, or TDP, sometimes called TPP, thiamine pyrophosphate.
TDP?
And this active form, TDP, acts as a crucial helper molecule, something we call a cofactor.
Okay, cofactor. That sounds like a key term. The Reddit discussion mentioned B1 helps other enzymes work, and PubMed Central says TDP is a cofactor in some really important metabolic complexes.
Yeah.
Could you break that down? What's a cofactor, basically, and why is it so vital?
Sure. Think of enzymes as tiny biological machines. They speed up specific chemical reactions in our bodies.
Right.
But many enzymes can't do their jobs alone. They need a sidekick, and that's essentially what a cofactor is. It's a non-protein chemical compound that binds to the enzyme, and it's absolutely essential for the enzyme to carry out its catalytic activity, its job.
So like a key for the machine.
That's a good analogy, yes. In the case of thiamine, TDP binds to key enzymes involved in metabolism. Metabolism is, how our bodies convert food into energy and building blocks. TDP is crucial for enzymes that break down glucose, our body's main fuel, as well as fats, lipids, and proteins. The PubMed Central article specifically mentions its role in complexes like pyruvate dehydrogenase and alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase.
That sounds important.
They really are. They're right at the heart of the main energy-producing pathways in our cells. Without TDP, these enzymes just can't function correctly. Our ability to get energy from food is significantly hampered.
Wow.
The UCR News and bioengineer.org articles both really emphasize this essential role of thiamine in overall metabolic function. It's like TDP is the specialized tool these crucial enzyme machines need to work.
That makes perfect sense. So the flip side, what happens when we don't have enough of this essential tool, this TDP? PubMed Central talks about some pretty serious consequences. Limited Krebs cycle function, less ATP, oxidative damage, even cell death.
Yes, exactly. When thiamine is deficient, tissues with high energy demands suffer the most because it's so critical for energy production.
Like the brain.
Heart. Precisely. The brain relies heavily on glucose metabolism, so does the heart, the nervous system. When thiamine runs low, these tissues are among the first to feel the pinch from reduced energy, less ATP synthesis.
Okay.
The neurological issues arise because nerve cells, neurons, need a constant energy supply for signaling and just basic upkeep. Lack of thiamine disrupts communication, can even cause damage.
And the heart?
The heart muscle also needs continuous energy to pump effectively. Plus, thiamine plays a role in producing nitric oxide, which helps blood vessels function. Deficiency can lead to heart problems, fluid buildup, what's known as wet beriberi.
Right, and the gut issues.
Thiamine's involved in smooth muscle function and nerve signaling in the gut, too. So, deficiency can cause digestive problems. And that buildup of lactate and acidosis you mentioned, that happens because the body resorts to less efficient oxygen-fill energy production, which makes lactate as a byproduct.
It really hits home how vital it is for so many systems.
Absolutely. It keeps critical systems running smoothly.
Okay, so now let's pivot to the discovery itself. This is fascinating. Reddit and UCR News mention Breslow's hypothesis from 1958. That's a long time ago.
It is indeed 1958. Ronald Breslow, a highly respected chemist at Columbia University, proposed a really innovative and frankly kind of surprising idea back then.
About how thiamine works.
Exactly, about how it helps certain enzymes. The abstract from the recent Science Advances paper states that Breslow hypothesized that thiamine acts as a source of something called transient carbenes.
Transient carbenes.
Mm.
Okay, what are those? Bioengineer.org says he thought thiamine could briefly take on a carbene-like structure during reactions.
Yeah.
And Reddit described a carbene as a stable, double-free radical, carbon with 2 unpaired electrons. That sounds unstable.
Well, stable might be a bit misleading there in the Reddit description. They're generally highly reactive. Chemically, a carbene is a molecule with a neutral carbon atom, but it only has 6 electrons in its outer shell, not the preferred 8.
Okay, 6 instead of 8, electron deficient.
Right.
Yeah.
And 2 of those 6 are unpaired. This makes the carbon atom extremely eager to form 2 more chemical bonds to get to that stable 8. Highly reactive.
So why was the idea of one of these existing, even briefly, in water, like inside our cells, considered so surprising? Maybe impossible.
That was the big hurdle. Both the abstract and bioengineer.org mention this. Water is a product solvent. Its molecules have hydrogens that readily interact with electron-deficient things.
Like a carbene.
Exactly. Carbenes are electron-deficient. Water is electron-rich in certain ways. It was widely believed that a carbene would react almost instantly with water, breaking down. The idea of thiamine generating a carbene in water inside a cell, that was a major puzzle.
So how could it possibly stick around long enough to do anything useful?
That was a question chemists wrestled with for decades, as the Reddit discussion pointed out. How could it form, and how could it possibly be stable, even momentarily, in water? It's like trying to keep something incredibly flammable dry in the middle of a rainstorm.
Great analogy. Which brings us to the breakthrough at UC Riverside. The Reddit post basically shouted it. Chemists finally confirmed Breslow's theory. They stabilized a carbene in water.
Precisely. The Science Advances abstract confirms it. They synthesized and fully characterized using key techniques a carbene that can be generated in water and, crucially, isolated as a stable species. It's direct validation of Breslow's hypothesis after all these years.
Amazing. And this was Professor Vincent Lavallo's team.
Yes, his lab at UCR led the research published in Science Advances.
How do they do it? Bioengineer.org mentioned a clever new strategy. Something about molecular armor.
That's the key innovation. They designed a specific molecular framework, a protective ligand structure, that essentially encapsulates the reactive carbene.
Craps it.
Sort of, yes.
Yeah.
It shields the carbene carbon from the surrounding water and other things that could destabilize it. But critically, it leaves the reactive site accessible enough to potentially do its chemical work.
Wow. And it worked.
Remarkably well. They created a complex where the carbene stayed intact in liquid water for months. That's completely unprecedented in carbene chemistry.
Months. And they proved its structure using NMR and X-ray crystallography. Could you give us a quick rundown on what those techniques do?
Sure. NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, uses magnetic fields and radio waves to probe the nuclei of atoms in a molecule. It tells you about the types of atoms, how they're connected, the molecule's structure, and even how it behaves in liquid. Think of it like getting a detailed fingerprint of the molecule in solution.
Okay.
X-ray crystallography involves shooting X-rays at a crystal of the substance. The way the X-rays scatter off the atoms creates a pattern. Analyzing that pattern lets scientists build a precise 3D map of where all the atoms are in the solid crystalline state.
So NMR for the liquid state, X-ray for the solid structure.
Exactly. Using both provided irrefutable proof that they had indeed created and stabilized this carbene in its protective framework, confirming its structure definitively.
Incredible. 2 powerful ways to see it. So why is this such a big deal beyond confirming an old theory? What are the implications? A Reddit user, Gendate010, suggested this could open doors for making things like pharmaceuticals.
That's a very sharp point and a major implication. Bioengineer.org really emphasizes this. Carbenes are actually vital components
Huh?
mixed in many transition metal catalysts.
Catalysts,
Yeah,
the things that speed up reactions.
precisely. These catalysts are workhorses in the chemical industry. They're used to synthesize countless products, pharmaceuticals, agrochemicals, fuels, materials, you name it.
Right.
But traditionally, many of these processes use organic solvents, and as the article notes, these can be toxic, flammable, environmentally problematic, and expensive to handle and dispose of.
Right.
Now, if you can stabilize the key carbene component in water, it opens the door to developing catalytic systems that use water as the solvent.
Water instead of harsh chemicals.
Exactly. Water is non-toxic, abundant, cheap, and environmentally benign. This could genuinely pave the way for greener, safer, and more cost-effective chemical manufacturing. It's a huge potential shift toward sustainability.
That sounds transformative.
Yeah.
Dr. Varun Raviproli, the study's lead author, mentioned it started as exploring reactive intermediates and sort of serendipitously confirmed Breslow's vision.
Yes, sometimes basic research leads to unexpected, profound outcomes.
And the implications go beyond industrial chemistry, right? Biomimetic engineering.
Absolutely. Since our cells work in water, understanding how nature might stabilize reactive species like this could teach us a lot. This success suggests we might use similar molecular armor strategies to trap and study other fleeting biochemical intermediates.
Learning more about how life's chemistry actually works.
Exactly. Enhancing our understanding of biological pathways, maybe even helping design new catalysts or synthetic enzymes that mimic nature. Professor Lavallo called it a paradigm shift for carbene chemistry. Working with them in water was just considered, well, implausible before.
So, going back to the greener pharma production idea, could you elaborate just a bit more on why using water is so advantageous there?
Certainly. Beyond the obvious environmental benefits, less pollution, less hazardous waste, there are safety aspects. Water isn't flammable like many organic solvents. Cost is a factor. Water is much cheaper.
Yep.
And from a process perspective, reactions in water might sometimes be simpler to integrate if the final product is also water-soluble, or if you're working with biological molecules. It can sometimes allow for milder reaction conditions, saving energy. It just aligns perfectly with the goals of green chemistry.
Cleaner, safer, cheaper. Sounds like a win-win-win.
Hmm?
Okay, so while this chemistry discovery is amazing, let's bring it back to the human health side for a moment. Our sources, like PubMed Central, paint a pretty stark picture of thiamine deficiency disorders, TDDs.
Yes, they do.
Historically, things like Beriberi wet affecting the heart, dry the nerves, and Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, often linked to alcohol abuse. It really hammers home that thiamine is critical for metabolizing carbs and amino acids. Deficiency hits the brain, heart, liver, muscles, nerves.
It's systemic because energy production is fundamental everywhere.
Symptoms can be really varied too, right?
Yeah.
Breathing issues, confusion, fatigue, weakness, strange eye movements, gut problems.
Yes, it can manifest in many ways, sometimes making diagnosis tricky if it's not specifically considered.
And Stat Pearls confirms the risk factors: alcohol dependence, older age, diabetes, post-bariatric surgery, malnutrition, pregnancy, lactation. It has a wide range of people. For our listeners, what's the key takeaway regarding just maintaining enough thiamine?
I think the main message is awareness. Awareness of the importance of a balanced diet that includes thiamine-rich foods, and awareness of the risk factors. If someone falls into one of those risk categories or has unexplained symptoms like severe fatigue, confusion, or nerve issues, it's definitely worth discussing the possibility of thiamine deficiency with the doctor.
Don't just assume it's something else.
Right. Early symptoms can be vague, but catching it early is key to preventing serious, sometimes irreversible damage, especially to the nervous system. Supplementation might be needed, but always under medical guidance. It's not usually something to self-diagnose or treat.
Good advice. And speaking of treatment, PubMed Central says timely diagnosis is crucial because giving thiamine can rapidly help with some symptoms.
Yes, particularly some of the acute neurological or cardiac symptoms can respond dramatically to thiamine administration, often given intravenously or intramuscularly in severe cases initially.
Then maybe oral supplements later.
Often, yes. Followed by oral maintenance therapy. But prevention is key, especially at a population level.
Like for infants. The article mentions supplementing at-risk pregnant and breastfeeding women.
Exactly. That's a critical intervention to ensure adequate thiamine in breast milk for the developing infant. But the article rightly points out challenges figuring out optimal doses, duration, considering things in the diet that might block thiamine absorption.
Antithiamine factors.
Yes, found in certain foods or diets. Food fortification is another major strategy, adding thiamine to staple foods like rice or flour.
What are your thoughts on those public health approaches, especially where resources are limited?
They're incredibly important. Fortification can be highly effective for reaching large populations, especially if staple foods are processed centrally. It bypasses individual compliance issues to some extent.
Hmm.
Supplementation programs targeted at high-risk groups like pregnant women and infants are also vital, but they need to be sustainable, accessible, and combined with education.
Right.
And addressing those anti-thiamine factors through dietary education, promoting diversity in diets where possible, it all plays a role.
Mm.
Plus, we need good surveillance to know where the problems are and if interventions are working. It requires a multi-pronged approach and political will.
Absolutely. A complex problem needing a comprehensive solution. Okay, as we start to wrap up our deep dive, let's circle back to the discovery. Bioengineer.org summed it up nicely. A historic milestone, validating a 70-year-old idea, paving the way for greener chemistry.
It really is a testament to how revisiting old questions with new tools can yield breakthroughs.
And it highlights that science takes time, persistence pays off. That idea of the molecular shield, the armor, that seems like a powerful tool itself.
Absolutely. That technique for stabilizing a reactive intermediate could potentially be adapted for studying other fleeting molecules in chemistry and biology. It's a methodological advance with potentially broad applications.
It's a fantastic example of basic research opening doors we didn't even know were there.
Precisely.
So this deep dive has taken us from a 67-year-old chemical puzzle to the potential for greener factories, and reminded us just how vital a single nutrient like vitamin B1 is. For you listening, it really shows the links between chemistry, biology, and public health.
They're deeply interconnected.
Yeah, abstract molecules, concrete impacts on medicine and our bodies. And the fact that this impossible idea, a stable carbene in water, is now real, well, it opens up new questions. Which leads to our final provocative thought for you. If scientists could craft molecular armor for this carbene, what other elusive, unstable molecules hiding in nature might we be able to capture and study next? What secrets could they unlock in biology and medicine? Something to ponder. Thank you for joining us on Bio Bits and Bytes for this exploration.
It's been a real pleasure discussing it.
And a huge thank you to our expert for sharing your insights with us today. Thank you.